lot of dead bodies floating in the water when we got there, and we had to move them out of the way in order to get on the beach. And it was kind of scary to see all of them. You look at them and you think, well, you know, but by the grace of God, I could have been up earlier, and that could have been me floating out through there.
That's from the documentary Vanishing Voices, a Delaware-based project produced by Sussex County resident James Deal. Delaware has increasingly looked for opportunities to honor World War II vets. A monument was dedicated on the south lawn of Legg Hall in Dover last fall. And this past Tuesday, a donation was made to the state archives, which outlined the role of Delawareans during the Second World War. And as we heard in that clip, the sacrifices made during D-Day are really almost unimaginable today. And as part of our monthly content partner report with Delaware Today magazine, we're joined by Kevin Noonan. His father was a part of the invasion force. Kevin, thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate the fact that you guys are helping to shine a light on the courage and the sacrifices of not just my father, but all the men of D-Day, and especially Omaha Beach.
Absolutely. And you write about your father's experiences in the pages of Delaware Today magazine. His name was Charles, a 29-year-old platoon leader during that invasion. Tell us a little bit about his experience on that day and the surrounding days.
Well, you know, he was part of the 29th Division, which was the first American infantry unit sent to England, and they were in England for almost 2 years practicing before the assault. And of course, Dad was a first lieutenant and a platoon leader, and so he is really like a father figure to these guys. They'd been together, trained together, working together before the invasion, so they were really a tight team. So it was really something that just, well, obviously, everyone talks about D-Day, but there's a lot of stuff that went into that beforehand.
And he passed away in 1998. Did he ever talk about the invasion? Was it a subject of conversation that came up often?
Not really, and I think this is a common thread with men and women who have fought in combat, is most of the time they don't like to talk about it. And Dad was certainly that way. And I said they were in England for 2 years, and he could tell great stories about going out with some friends in a Jeep and doing donuts around Stonehenge and stuff like that. And he could even talk about what it was like climbing down the cargo nets into their assault craft. But when they got to that part where the ramp went down on the beach, he would get like choked up. He couldn't go on. And believe me, this was the most stoic of men. So it was something that he really didn't talk about, but still over the years, dribs and drabs would kind of sneak out. One of the best stories he said that is in the article that he mentioned to his grandson, Rick Stewart, for a school project. Ricky just asked him about it, and Dad talked about how after they landed, they were hiding behind these hedgehogs, the steel girders that Germans welded together so gliders couldn't land on the beach. And so many machine gun bullets hit it that sparks flew into his shirt and it started to smolder, and he had so this just came out like that. That's how things came out, a little bit here, a little bit there, and I was able to piece some things together. Dad was interviewed by the News Journal before the 20th and 40th anniversaries of D-Day. And also after he died, I managed to contact a couple guys who had been in his platoon and interviewed them. And it was through all these different sources I was sort of be able to really piece together what was his longest day.
And for your father and the soldiers that fought alongside of him are referred to as the greatest generation, the Tom Brokaw book. Did he think of himself that way? Was that the mindset?
None of those guys ever did. But also, you got to remember the mindset of the country is everybody was involved with that, and so it wasn't like he was special in that regard. I mean, certainly he was special for what he did and what he had to put up with. But in terms of that, everyone was part of it. That was really what was going on in the country at the time. So to them, they were just doing what everyone else did. They were just doing their duty. But I do know they took a lot of pride, and especially being in the assault wave in Omaha Beach, that's something that they wouldn't talk to you about, but if they ever got together, they would talk about.
And there will be a point in the next 10 years, 20 years, when all that will be left of the history of that battle is the history and the stories that have been told. Is there another way to sort of honor the sacrifices that the men like your father made in going over there for us down the road as Americans?
I think really just to remember, but also to remember it with a focus. That's why certainly Steven Spielberg and Saving Private Ryan is so important. If we ever watch, and we all grew up watching John Wayne war movies, and guys would get shot and they'd fall dead, and it almost looked like a game. But if you watch Saving Private Ryan and you see what it was really like, that at least gives you at least an idea of what it was like for those guys on that beach on that day. So I think the best thing we can do for them really is just remember what they did and do it in the proper context.
All right, Kevin Noonan, Delaware Today magazine, thanks so much for joining us. And you can read Kevin's article online at delawaretoday.com. It's on newsstands now. Delaware Today is a content partner of newsworks.org/Delaware.